It's something about redfish, man. They'll put a smile on anybody's face, a nice one like that. You know, as far as pure power, redfish definitely are the king of the close-in near-shore waters, you know, as far as broods. They're like a bulldog, you know, they're big old tail like that, and powerful bodies. Definitely will give you a slugfest.
Alright, for sight casting redfish on the Nature Coast, there's a couple different baits that I use that are live or cut baits or things like that. Some favorite baits for people who like to chuck it out there and let it lay, which I call them catfish getters, because a lot of times you'll get catfish on them, is cut mullet, cut ladyfish, or cut pinfish. A pinfish also works well live and hooked in the back, and it'll swim around and attract a lot of attention. On the Nature Coast during the summer months, you will get a lot of pinfish that come around and will pick your shrimp off. So if you were to take a live shrimp and just pitch it out blindly onto a flat or near a key, 9 times out of 10 in about a minute you're going to reel back just its tail. I always try to let people know that when they're in my boat and we're sight casting for redfish, don't blind cast. Make sure that you see that redfish. And spotting redfish out in the water, a lot of times you'll see mullet, and mullet do not take any certain path. They wander a lot. And looking at them in different lights, they're going to be small and slender. And we have big mullet here on the Nature Coast. Lots of people mistakenly see a mullet and claim it as a redfish. Now, redfish generally are going to be underneath the mullet, laying on the bottom. They have a fatter head and a profile that's big at the top, narrow in the middle, and they move along very slowly or purposefully. A lot of times you'll see redfish and he'll be stationary, just waiting. If one's moving, generally he doesn't have the swagger of a mullet like this. It's just going to be a slow, straight swim, just at that. Unless you spook them, then of course they got a burst of energy and they'll take off, and by then you should just target another fish. That one's going to be scared. But I like to look at them. If you can find some area on that key where you got a light bottom that the fish will stand out. And certain times on turtle grass, it's real green. If you're here in the fall, you'll see that the redfish are going to be kind of lit up, real bright orange, and they'll stand out against that turtle grass. But I have found that spotting a redfish laying amongst turtle grass is a lot harder to spot than one laying on a sand or rock kind of bottom. Now, when I talked about using a shrimp, this is about the size or even larger that I like to use for sight casting redfish. Again, we had talked earlier about the weight is all on a shrimp's head, so when you cast, the weight forward is going to go a lot further. And I use a 3/0 older bait style hook like this one on a loop knot. That's my go-to sight casting rig, something simple and quick. I like to keep my rods at ready where if I see a fish, if it's not in my hand, I can lay the push pole down, pick the rod up, and make that cast. Normally, all you got to do is just hook it right here at the base of the tail, thread it on there backwards, and turn the hook out of its stomach. It hides the point. Looks very natural presentation in the water. If you swim it along, there's the natural action of the swimming of the shrimp. Most of the time, you don't even need to do that. If you make a great cast in front of that fish and let it lay on the bottom, just like that, he'll smell it out and he'll come over and pick it up. That's where the fun is. You get to see the fish eat that. Don't get overexcited. A lot of times, if you see one eat, you can get on the reel too quickly and actually pull that bait out of the fish's mouth. So, if you know that the fish picked it up, shut your bill, reel down until you feel the weight of the fish as he swims off, and when you start to feel that weight, then set the hook. If you see the fish bite this like that and immediately set the hook, I've had seen people just jerk it right out of their mouth, and the redfish actually starts to chase it down. Or if you happen to just graze his mouth, he'll figure out that that's not the real deal and he'll be gone. So that's one of my favorite sight casting baits right there. Now for artificials, there's a whole world of artificials out there made just for redfish. On the incoming high tide, I call it a search bait. If I'm pulling a shoreline and we're looking for redfish, with artificials I can cover a lot of ground. I can have my anglers throwing up ahead of us, and when they catch a fish, I can pin the boat down, anchor it, and stop right there. And usually if there's one redfish, there's going to be one or two more, if not a whole school if you get lucky. So good search baits. Always a good jig. This is a 1/8 ounce jig head with a short shank hook and a glow tail. Some other good colors for area for redfish are bourbon, root beer, new penny, and your darker colors. Glow also works very well too. Also, plastic shrimp. This 3-inch shrimp, DOA works really well. And it's a bait that if the pinfish are totally tearing off your shrimp and you're not having a lot of luck, they can't tear this apart. This, you actually, if you throw it out and it does lay on the bottom, you're going to have to work it a little bit. If it's just going to lay there 9 times out of 10, the fish will pass it up. So you do have to swim this to make it work. Other good search baits, probably the #1 redfish bait on the Nature Coast are gold spoons. A lot of redfish have met their fate on the end of a gold spoon. Again, throw it out, shut the bell by hand, get it moving before it hits the bottom here, because if it hits the bottom and gets hung up, then you lost your gold spoon and there's going to be another one hanging and rusting away on the rocks out here. So make sure you get that down. You know, some of the spoons will flutter very slowly toward the bottom, some will sink like a rock. I won't use anything higher than a 3/8 ounce gold spoon. 1/4 ounce is generally going to be your best bet. Now there's other popular ways of catching them. Some of the bass fishermen use spinner baits, and then some companies have come up with different things, such as a spinner bait with a jig. And this works well. Redfish will chase it down and get it. And this, basically, you throw it out and you're just going to reel it straight in. This will spin around. And what it does, the gold spoons and the spinners like this mimic a dying or fluttering pinfish that have been hit or struck or something's matter, and it gives them that instinct strike to run it down and get it. I've watched a lot of redfish eat gold spoons, and they come running up right behind it, and a lot of times when they want it, it's in their mouth before you can even react.